What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly be late. Reverse rants, no hate. So, I was watching an interview that was conducted by Sean Porter. He had Tim Tszyu and Keith Thurman on his on the show. And look, you know what's funny to me is this: people literally will pick a fighter to win based on humor. Yo, he funny as hell. Yo, he's so funny. Ha ha. LOL. Laughing emoji and all. Then they'll put like Keith in 6 or whatever. Okay. Whoever you think is going to win is whoever you think is going to win. But whatever happened to basing the winner on, the performance in the ring? That would be like saying a football team is going to beat another team because I like the football helmets on one team better than the other. Like, what does that have to do with the players? You could have the ugliest uniforms. You have the complete ugliest uniforms ever created and be the best team in the league. I mean, what does that have to do with anything? I like his helmet better. You guys, it's funny because the point what I'm saying is that, for people that think that Thurman is just a better fighter, fine. That's all great. That's all great. But as far as just like talking and saying who's going to win because you like that person better or he's funny, he's all right. Between the two of them, Tim Tszyu's calm. He's always calm. The way I see this fight. We for one, you got to look at this. Keith Thurman is not a better fighter than he was since he fought Pacquiao. All right, he's 5 years older now, and he's been inactive. We've seen his last fight with Barrios, and I mean, if you were impressed by that Keith Thurman, okay, well, you casuals would think so. For people that really understand boxing, that was a his performance was okay. You just went the distance with a guy that got knocked out by a 135-pounder, and it was not the type of performance where he won. He got the decision. That's what mattered. But it wasn't the type of performance where I can see a person saying Keith is still that dude, or Keith is like, they just think he's going to wash Tim Tszyu. Well, we'll see. But here's what I think. Okay, what I'm noticing rather, Keith Thurman is acting like a real goofball nowadays. I don't know. He thinks that what he's doing is entertaining, but I don't know. It's like for some reason guys wait till they become older to start acting goofy. Like I just don't get it. You remember with Keith Thurman, there was a time when he always wanted to break down a scenario and a situation and point out fighters' strengths and weaknesses and what he would do if he fought them or what the opponent should do, and he made a lot of sense. Now it's like Keith Thurman talks, and sometimes I'm listening to him and it's just like, Keith, what the hell are you talking about? Like what are you saying, man? And he's just acting like a goof, man. Like making these weird sounds, these weird voices, and silly ass faces. And I guess he has the new age syndrome where he's trying to do things that he feel like would entertain these casual, young-minded marks. Because I'm just sitting there watching him like, damn, like what? Like, Keith, what happened to you, man? Like what happened to you? I don't care about predictions. I don't care about who people like better and all of that. But if Keith Thurman beats Tim Tszyu, it doesn't say Keith Thurman's back. It doesn't say Keith Thurman's this and that. Now, we can look at the performance and decide that that's what we have to go by. But from what I've seen of Keith Thurman, if he beats Tim Tszyu, it's more than likely a thing of Tim Tszyu is overrated. And I say that because here's a guy who hasn't fought in damn near 800 days. Looked like iffy in his last fight. Got beat by Pacquiao. People seem to forget Pacquiao was 40. Keith Thurman was 30. And he talked super confident that he was going to win. There's no way I'm going to let a 40-year-old rabbit beat me. He said a lot of things about Pacquiao, and he got not just beat, but dominated. It wasn't even competitive. All right? It wasn't even competitive. So when he says these things and he goes in there and has like a terrible performance, and then he's talking about who hurt Tim Tszyu, who dropped Tim Tszyu. Bro, we saw Luis Collazo hurt you with a body shot. We seen you get hurt to the body by a couple of people. And people like, yeah, but body shot can hurt anybody. Yeah, the point is, you shouldn't be that easy to get to the body. And we already know he can't take body shots. So him, Keith Thurman's talking shit. Keith Thurman's going to get in that ring and try to dash and move. He's not going to stand in front of Tim Tszyu. He's going to lose that fight. Because as soon as Tim Tszyu connects clean, Keith Thurman, he's talking about his power and what he can do. Keith Thurman is coming from 147. And he had good power. It wasn't devastating power, but he had good power. And regardless, you never know what can happen in the fight, but I always expect guys to be, at their best, whether their best is 80% or 100%, 75% or whatever. I expect guys to be at their best. So that's what I'm going by. And looking at him, at what he did, I can't imagine him being better than what he was. I have to look at what he showed. And, it reminds me of how, Benavidez and Andre, where, Andre is acting like a goof. Yo, all I gotta say is get your tickets. You know what I'm saying? They're going fast. He's trying to be funny. He's trying to entertain. And I'm just listening to him. I'm watching him, and I just don't see the same Andre. I just don't see the same Andre. Like, it's like, where's the fire at, man? And when I say where's the fire, I don't mean yelling, screaming, cursing, acting. No, just you're acting like a showman all of a sudden. And he went in there, however old he is, 35, 36, or whatever he is, and it wasn't even competitive, man. And when I look at Keith Thurman, I feel like I just don't see it in him. And the reason I say, if he beats Tim Tszyu, and especially like if it's a convention, like then that makes Tim Tszyu overrated. Why? Unless Keith Thurman has turned the clock back, and all of a sudden he would have to be better than he was, because let's just be honest with you, man. As you come up in weight, it's different. You gain weight, but you don't get any taller. You don't get a longer reach. Things don't, so now you're going up against guys that really can bang. So even to say that Keith is the better boxer, okay, fine. Whatever. I'm not concerned about the attributes and the breaking down who does what technically. I don't care about that shit. I'm saying, looking at what they do and the results that they get, Tim Tszyu has been lighting shit up, whereas Keith Thurman hasn't been doing anything. So if we're judging Keith Thurman by anything, we're going to skip past Pacquiao and Barrios and try to go back to when he was in his heyday and pick one of those fights to say, this is the Keith we're going to see? Just saying, y'all. And when a fighter acts like that with all the theatrics and all, usually they're trying to get it's not just about selling tickets. They're trying to get the favor of the fans. They're trying to get people on their side. They're trying to get people to want to see them. Why? Because even if they lose, there's a lot of people going, damn, I wish he would have won. Now, guess what? When his name comes up again for another fight, people might still tune in. That's the expectation. They'll still tune in and watch because they really like this guy. We've seen people like Riley Romero, even Ryan Garcia, just from talking shit, people like them. But they go in there and lose, and it's like, okay, maybe next time. And I feel like that's part of what Keith is doing as well, man. Keith is not stupid. He knows there's a big chance he can lose this fight. Most people think that Keith Thurman is going to get murdered in this fight. And for the people that think Keith Thurman is going to win, they think he's the better boxer. Let me explain something to you about like his inactivity. Keith Thurman keeps talking about what he does in the gym. Every freaking fight Keith Thurman has, he says, you still haven't seen the best Keith Thurman. He's 35 years old. When will we see the best Keith Thurman? And if people think, well, when he fight Tim Tszyu, because he's talking about he's going to show him skills he's never seen. Yeah, he says the same things every fight, man. So, again, unless he turned the clock back, and this is the point, we'll know come fight night what happens. What I see as a difference maker, look, let me ask you this. Do you guys think, well, Tony Harrison is shot. I got to say that. He's shot. He's definitely shot. But Tim Tszyu did what he had to do, and he got him out of there. I think Keith Thurman is not what he was, and even at his best, you know, I told you, man, I don't see the Danny Garcias, the Sean Porters, the Keith. I don't see those guys, like I said, man, like a prime Kell Brook, you know, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, a prime Mark. I don't see, and I say a prime for those two because even when Pacquiao and Floyd wasn't in their prime, they still was great enough to beat guys that was in their prime. That was good fighters. So, really good fighters. So, it's one of those things where I look at Keith Thurman and like just his antics. People don't read between the lines, man. They don't see this thing. That bravado, I'm telling you, it's one of those things where they're trying to do things to it's like a movie, right? They write these scripts for these characters, and it's like they want to try to get you to care about the character, you know. And then otherwise, why are you watching the movie, right? Like that's how that's the mindset of the person writing the scripts and making these characters up. They want you to feel some type of way. That person died, you go, oh damn, not him. I want him to make it. And like Keith Thurman, he talks shit, man, and one of the things that got my attention is, like I said, he went from being able to, like, you know, scientifically break down things and make sense to now he just talks and he's just rambling about nothing, man. You know, and then all this, oh, he sends a message to Crawford. I don't care nothing about what he said about Crawford. He got to get past Tim Tszyu, first of all. You know, and when I look at him and the things that he's saying, I just see a guy that's a good talker, or was a good talker. Now he just talks. And again, I think Tim Tszyu should go in there and basically, you know, whether it's early or late, however, I think Tim Tszyu should go in there and punish him and get him out of there. Now, for Tim Tszyu, being overrated comes when you beat certain fighters that's not great, good, decent, right? But they're not great. You look good against those guys. Then you get in there with a guy that's not great, but better than the guys you fought. And you can't hold your own. Past his prime, Keith Thurman is past his prime. Let's just be honest, y'all. Keith Thurman is a guy who, first off, even me watching him train, the hand speed he's talking about, the powers, I didn't see any of that shit, man. I didn't see any of that. I watched and I said, if he truly thinks that what he's doing is impressive, if he thinks that his hand speed or whatever, his movement, what I saw in his training camp, I'm saying, nah, he looks sluggish. He doesn't look that fast. And I think that people are reflecting more of, like I said, of what he was versus what he is now. And from what I've seen, Tim Tszyu should beat the shit out of Keith Thurman. Now, if Keith Thurman, with the veteran experience, is able to, like, survive and do certain things because of the experience, fighters can do that, even journeymen. You can be a journeyman. That doesn't mean you don't have skill. It just, journeymen just are not known. They don't win. They'll hold their own in the fight, but lose. Some of them just get obliterated. They just keep getting fights. But me looking at Keith Thurman and listening to him talk, I just don't get that same feel as he used to have. It's just not there. I just look at Keith Thurman and I feel like he knows the danger that's in front of him. He's talking this. He's not scared. No, okay, great. Just the things he's saying, but he then, like I said, all the silly voices and silly, goofy face. Like I've never seen him act like that before, man. Like he's a freaking clown. I'm just listening to him, like, okay. So you're saying all of that. Do you like? I mean, I don't know. Like if you're thinking like your fans are, where they're thinking because they find you funny that's gonna be enough to win, man, you're gonna have a long night or a horrific short night. Bottom line, I'm gonna have to see Keith win to believe anything about Keith. I definitely don't see Keith Thurman the way he sees himself. I don't see him the way his fans see him. I've never seen him that way. I thought he was a good fighter, but I thought it was exaggerated about his skill level. And I think so now. Now, will he be better than he was against Mario Barrios? Will he be better than he was against, Manny Pacquiao? It's difficult to say that when the last time we saw him was those last two times, and we saw what he brought to the table. You don't just get better. You're not a good fighter. Then your skills start to deteriorate. Then all of a sudden you find a fountain of youth in your back. A fighter can go through ups and downs in their careers. Where they can go through a period of not looking so good. We've seen it happen with AJ. Okay? I'm not so sure about Joseph Parker, man, because, I'm hearing he's a better fighter now than he ever was. No. Even when he beat Wilder, I'm watching him and I'm looking. Like I said, Wilder don't give you much. We already know what Wilder's going to do. And I look at Keith Thurman. Let me put it to you like this. At 147, when he was the best fighter at 147, and we still never got him versus Earl, when Earl was, really doing his thing as Earl. He never fought Terrence Crawford. Okay, let me say, Keith Thurman, he said he's not going to any division other than 147. He said, remember, he will retire at 147. And I said, people say a lot of things, and then things happen in life and they change their mind. He might outgrow the division. Now, whatever the reason, whether he outgrew the division or whether he just wanted to go, whatever it is, there's fighters I felt was better than Keith Thurman. Let me say it that way. So I didn't feel like he could just go up in any division and just do the same things he was doing at 147. I never looked at Keith Thurman and thought that. Like, he can go to 154 and dominate. He can go to 160 and dominate. No. In fact, people was talking about, what about him and Canelo? And man, Canelo would beat the fuck out of Keith Thurman, man. You see, the problem is this, man. You got to understand. Keith Thurman has heart when he's in that ring. He is a good boxer. Keith Thurman is just too fucking easy to get baited into coming, stand still when he doesn't need to. He'll back straight into the ropes. Canelo loves the body. You imagine Canelo hitting him to the body, what you think gonna happen? You really think he's gonna stand up to Canelo's body attack? Nah. Canelo would beat the fuck out of him, in my opinion. And so I don't think he beats Jermell Charlo. Definitely don't beat Jermell Charlo. I don't think he beats a prime Tony Harrison. So when you look at what he has and narrow it down, again, only way he beats Tim Tszyu is if Tim Tszyu is overrated. Because, we saw Nito Donaire at 38 years old win a title, right? Came back. But you gotta look, who did he win against? We saw Bernard Hopkins do the same thing. He was still good enough to beat certain guys and still win titles when he was past his prime because he had skills. One thing we gotta look at with Bernard really takes care of himself. He watches what he eats, and he's very disciplined. So everybody can't do what Bernard did. You understand what I mean? So, Roy Jones beat him with one hand in their prime. But as they got older, he had more tricks up his sleeve than Roy did. You see, so you gotta look at these things. But also at the same time, that's what I'm saying about Keith. It's not that you remember how to fight, you know in your head how to explain things, and you also know that your opponent is not going to cooperate and allow you to execute these things. If you look at the guys that Keith Thurman has fought and the guys he looked his best against, this is my point. All of these guys are welterweights or came up to welterweight. Now you're going up to 154 against a guy that really can punch and a guy that is going to be there. So for Keith Thurman to move, dance, and move, unless Tim Tszyu, this is what I'm saying, under the overrated part, if he just walking in the shot stupidly, fighting desperately, not being, because Keith Thurman's not going to stand in front of him. I just don't know if Keith got the legs to move like he needs to effectively, as long as he needs to. And this is where I believe, like for Tim Tszyu, he has everything he needs to beat Keith Thurman. He definitely has everything he needs to beat Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is, how Dominic Brazil, they're very similar in that. Dominic Brazil can critique, break down shit, and analyze everything about how he would fight this guy and what but when he gets in the ring, it got to a point where he wasn't the same fighter either. He still could talk that shit though. And, people might, I'm not being funny when I say it, Keith is not even making sense, man. He's just talking stupid shit, trying to make people laugh and being a goofball with that funny ass looking haircut. So I'm sitting there like, all right, we'll see what happens fight night. But basically, y'all, I just don't get the same feel that I used to with Keith Thurman. Like, there's a time where there's fighters, like when he fought Danny, I picked him to win. When he fought Sean, I picked him to win. Pretty much everybody else that came in front of him, I picked him to win against those guys. Now, when he fought Pacquiao, I clearly picked Pacquiao to win. And I said, unless Pacquiao has really, just slowed down, I don't see nothing Keith Thurman has that's going to bother Pacquiao. Was I wrong? And then the excuses, well, Keith married now. He don't have the same desire or hunger. Okay, what's changed? He had 2 fucking fights. Bottom line, since Pacquiao, he had 1 damn fight. Like I said, he hasn't fought in almost 800 days. So what exactly are we expecting Keith Thurman to come in the ring and do differently? So, yeah, I mean, I think Tim Tszyu should fuck him up. Now, what Tim Tszyu comes in there and do, we'll see. But I think Tim should fuck him up. I just don't see anything about Keith Thurman at this point where it's like, you got to, it's. I don't have the same feel. I just don't look at Keith Thurman and feel like, that guy is great. No, I never saw him as great. I saw him as good. And for his time and who he fought, who was there, he did what he had to do. It's like when people talk about Tim Bradley and you think Tim Bradley was undefeated. You think Tim Bradley was like, somehow he existed when Floyd did and he was every bit as good as Floyd, but for some reason he just didn't get, Tim Bradley to me was a guy who he has some fundamentals. He does, but he tries to fight like he's a power puncher when he's really not. And I feel like he made fights harder than he needed to be. You understand what I'm saying? But you have people that talk about Tim Bradley like, Tim was that guy. Tim was that what? Man, stop that shit, man. Y'all know damn well they robbed Pacquiao in that first fight. Every fight they had, Pacquiao won. Pacquiao got robbed, in my opinion. I mean, the thing was, I'm watching the fight. I'm not even giving Tim a round. Like, what is he doing? What did he win? So even to say, yeah, but Pacquiao, like the last 3-4 rounds, he wasn't as aggressive. Man, Pacquiao had that fight sewed up. Tim did much of nothing. He missed he's missing damn near everything. But, again, if you listen to Tim talk, Tim make you think he was unbeatable. If you listen to his fans that like him, they same thing. They talk like Tim was that guy. It's like, You look at Tim's resume, man. Look at who he's fought. Really. And the thing about it, if you talk about Tim, they talk about the Provodnikov fight more than they talk about him and Pacquiao. And they fought 3 times. So when you talk about Provodnikov, what happened? You went in there, you left that fight with your face all swollen, your head all swollen because you fought stupidly. And this is where I mean the lack of discipline, whereas you could have boxed, won that fight, kept your health intact and pretty much walked away from that fight, the victor showing superior skills, but instead you got in there and wanted to woo the fans. And that can cause you to get knocked out. That can cause you to... That's why Tim Bradley's career came to a screeching halt. He said, I don't want to do any more damage to my brain than I've already done. That one fight was his deciding factor that, nah, I'm done. So this is what I mean, yo. And I look at a guy like Keith Thurman. You still haven't seen the best Keith Thurman yet. Okay, right. Keith Thurman will be 75 years old. You still haven't seen the best Keith Thurman. When are we going to see it, Keith? When? And, it's not about what I want to believe. I just feel like when I look at, looking at Tim Tszyu, if he understands the assignment, he understands what he has to do. I just don't see Keith Thurman beating him. Once again, unless Tim Tszyu is overrated. And that's the only way I see Keith winning. Because, question, do you think Mario Barrios would beat Tim Tszyu? And the first thing people would say, yeah, but he's smaller. Okay, so is Keith Thurman. And he went up to 154. Just like when Barrios came up and fought him at 147. And Mario Barrios, and Keith Thurman, that's my point. Keith Thurman struggled. Oh, it was because of the layoff. Okay, y'all, if it was a layoff in ring rust, he hasn't fought in damn near 800 days. I don't want to hear ring rust. I don't want to hear no excuses. And that's part of my point as well. The last time he fought was damn near 800 days ago. So tell me what you think he's going to bring to the table that's going to be so different, so sharp. Every time Keith don't fight for a long time, he himself, there was some ring rust there, I've been active and, I like to fight more times a year than I did. But, it's, point if you got the victory and, it doesn't matter if I knock out, if I go the distance, just playing my skills and okay, right. So what is it supposed to be so different? That's the point of what I'm saying. And Keith is just not that guy to me that has such a, that dog in him to go his IQ to where he can really just go in there and just obliterate a guy like Tim Tszyu. So, anyway, we'll see. Tell me who y'all got on that fight. And do y'all feel the same way about Keith Thurman? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I just don't get that same feel when I'm listening to him talk as I used to. I don't believe in Keith Thurman. So, if he handles business the way he's supposed to, again, like I said, we can look at the performance. But I personally just don't see, and we're going to look at the performance and see what he did, win, lose, or draw. Both guys. But I don't see him being better than what he ever was. I just don't see it. So I don't see this Keith Thurman. This Keith Thurman has no business beating Tim Tszyu, bottom line. And even at his best, we don't know that he would have beat Tim Tszyu. And you got to think about it, too. Coming up to 154 pounds, Keith Thurman is talking all of this shit. And we've seen him get hurt to the body by 147 pounds. That came up to 147. So, like I said, if Tim understands the assignment, he should wipe the floor with Keith Thurman. And the most that will happen in Keith's favor is him being able to survive by just moving. And, like I said, unless Tim is fighting stupidly, he should win this fight. Talk to me in the comment section, y'all. Do y'all see Keith Thurman the same way? Do y'all get that same feel as you once had about feeling like, I think Keith is going to win this fight? Have y'all noticed the weird behavior and how he's just being, every time you see him now in front of a camera, he's a goofball. Maybe he realized how funny he looks at that haircut and he's just trying to play the part. I don't know. He looks like the fucking father from the Proud Family. But bottom line, talk to me in the comment section and who y'all got in this fight. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all on the next video.